He has already learned about the matter of the dagger. My situation will become more dangerous. Mr. Chen analyzed that any evil spirit will be harmed as long as it touches the stabbing sword. Inevitably, it will leave one terrified. However, the eagle killer did not scatter the vengeful spirits. But it's almost useless. That person clearly missed the opportunity. Rescue that fierce eagle in time. I estimate that he is probably not a member of the Xuanmen. So we just need to find him next. Things were resolved smoothly. I asked, "But how should we find the one hiding in the shadows?" "You can try tracking that eagle killer. Eagle Shah was stabbed behind the window. Wherever one goes, there will inevitably be lingering resentment. So as long as we can, following the lingering scent of resentment, finding him shouldn't be too difficult." This is indeed not difficult. Mr. Chen and I walked out of the courtyard. We are all sensitive to the aura of evil. You can quickly sense that chilling aura. Determine the direction in which the eagle Shah fled, until we arrived outside great-grandpa's house. The aura of the eagle killer has been pinpointed to second-grandpa's house. Could it be Uncle Er? I can't believe the reality before me. Mr. Chen also had a grave expression. He indicated for me to be careful. We approached Uncle Er's house. But just as we arrived outside his window, suddenly a loud scream echoed through the room. It's my second granduncle's voice. Mr. Chen and I broke through the door. The eagle was swooping down towards Granduncle Er. He opened his mouth, revealing fangs as sharp as steel needles, bitten towards second uncle's neck. Fortunately, second uncle was struggling, blocked the neck with my arm. Eagle Shah took a bite, bitten on the arm by second uncle. This allowed him to escape the deadly crisis of having his throat bitten. Mr. Chen took out the Xiangxi talisman and charged towards the eagle fiend. Xiangxi then released second uncle, escaped through the window. Mr. Chen handed me the talisman record. Benyazid, Lai Zhantai handed it to me. Hurry and chase. I took the talisman and chased after him, until they ran outside the village. I had to stop in my tracks. The eagle killer has indeed suffered heavy losses. It's not easy for me to catch up with him either. Mainly, my grandmother is still at the morning hall. Plus, my mother's restless spirit has not yet departed. At this moment, rushing out recklessly, it might be a feint to the east while attacking the west. I glanced at the general direction in which Xiangxi was escaping. It is the west. It is the direction of the sealed village and the direction to Xiangxi. I returned to great-grandpa's house. Seeing me return empty-handed, Mr. Chen was not surprised. Without asking much more, grandfather has already fallen into a coma. The wound bitten by the eagle has already turned dark over a large area. Mr. Chen cut open the wound made by the eagle. Black blood flowed out. Uncle Tang quickly caught the black blood in a basin. After Grandpa Er's blood was almost drained, Mr. Chen asked me to help Uncle Tang and the others hold down Grandpa Er. I was scared to the point of doubt. Second uncle is likely to become a zombie. Mr. Chen took out a packet of red powder from his bundle. He grabbed a handful of that powder, then directly applied the powder to the wound on second uncle's arm. It emitted a buzzing sound. Suddenly, the unconscious second uncle let out a piercing scream. He began to twist and struggle continuously. "Hold it down. Don't let go." But Mr. Chen did not stop, continuously applying that red powder on second uncle's wound, until second grandpa's wound no longer emits black smoke. At this moment, second uncle had also fallen silent, drenched in cold sweat. One can imagine that kind of pain. It turns out that expelling the corpse poison is so painful. Uncle Tang worriedly asked Mr. Chen how long it would take for Grandpa to wake up. Mr. Chen only told them, "The corpse poison has been eliminated. As for when to wake up, just wait and see how he fares. I can see that my second great uncle is very weak at this moment. At this age, being put through such turmoil, it is possible to endure, but it's hard to say clearly. We can only comfort Uncle Tang and his family. After dealing with second uncle, Mr. Chen and I returned home. Along the way, I told Mr. Chen, 'The eagle demon has likely gone to Xiangxi.' Mr. Chen listened and then didn't show much surprise either. He simply said calmly, 'Your second great uncle is likely the one who shakes the copper bell.' This, how is this possible? Didn't the eagle also bite him?" Mr. Chen sneered. "Didn't the eagle killer also bite Li Gang to death?" While speaking, we have arrived outside my yard, and pushed open the courtyard gate. But next, Mr. Chen and I both stopped in our tracks. The red-clothed female ghost has appeared. She was wandering outside my grandmother's funeral hall, watching the red-dressed female ghost lingering outside Grandma's wake. If what Mr. Chen said is true, second granduncle is the one who shakes the copper bell. Second uncle was bitten by the eagle demon. Life and death unknown. Eagle shot escapes again from behind the window. The danger is gone. Isn't this the perfect time to visit my mother in the underworld?" Mr. Chen said. "And is it a rare opportunity?" I asked, "Are you really sure? Second uncle is the one who secretly shakes the copper bell. But why did Grandpa do this? This doesn't make sense. Don't worry about that so much. At times like this, it's not wrong to take a gamble." Clearly, Mr. Chen only suspects. But since he asked me to gamble, I'll just take a gamble, because the spirit of the woman in red is very dim. It won't be long before the soul is shattered. I walked towards the lady ghost in red. The woman in red ghost saw me approaching her, displayed a face full of terror, and began to retreat. I quickened my pace. She turned and ran towards the corner of the yard. It seemed as if in her eyes, "I am the true vengeful spirit. Why is the red-dressed female ghost so afraid of me?" "Mr. Chen, I was just about to turn around. What is going on?" But behind me came Mr. Chen's serious voice. "And Yazid, after taking this step, do not look back." I continued to approach the woman in the red dress, until she was forced into a corner, at a moment with no retreat possible. I grabbed the red-clothed ghost by the arm. The soul is inherently formless. It is completely impossible to be caught by a living person. But I firmly held onto her. That's when I realized, at this moment I am a soul. If I had just turned back then, what you see will be your own flesh. The woman in red still wants to struggle. I comforted her, saying, "My daughter, you can no longer linger in this world. It's time to go down." My words quieted her down quite a bit. The confused eyes looked at me, like a frightened little kitten. She is so pitifully delicate. My heart ached. The woman in red sacrificed herself to save me from the evil spirit, tearing the soul to the brink of illusion. At this moment, she is a candle flickering in the wind. If I do not walk in the shadows, how could my heart bear it? I pulled the woman in red ghost towards the outskirts of the village, but she was very reluctant, and struggled to get up. Arrived in front of the earth temple outside the village. Once again, a thick black smoke billowed out. Black smoke enveloped the earth temple. The sound of clanging iron chains dragging came from within. As that voice came through, the shadow of the woman in red. Once again, restlessness stirred, struggling fiercely. I hold onto her tightly. Now she has developed a fear of me. If the red-clothed ghost were to run away right now, I'm afraid I won't be able to find her again." As the ghostly envoy dragged the soul-snatching chain, emerging from the black mist, the red-clad female ghost struggles. The soul has already begun to twist. There is a possibility of losing one's soul. This made me start to worry. Why did the mother lose her soul, refusing to enter the cycle of reincarnation? Is she afraid of something? Little master, recently no one in Live Family Village has been invited by Xiangxi. Who have you brought? Two ghost messengers. It's still the two ghosts that took my grandmother away last night, but they did not recognize the woman in the red dress. This is my mother, two Yama demigods of the underworld lords. Please take her to enter the cycle of reincarnation. Your mother. Two people puzzled, forgetting each other. One of the ghostly messengers said, "The lost souls must prove their identity. Only those who can tread the path of reincarnation. Little mister, you said her birth date and time. We'll find out by checking." I shook my head. "I don't know my mother's birth date and time." Yes, two ghost messengers are in trouble. Then the two ghosts turned around. After some murmuring and discussion, he turned back and said to me, "Little master, you hand her over to us first. Take us to the land god to confirm our identity. I will handle it myself." Two ghost messengers approached me. The red-clad ghost struggled even more fiercely. The distortion of the soul. There are signs of a soul being scattered. I pulled the woman in the red dress ghost. Quickly distanced himself from the two ghost messengers. I can't let the red-dressed ghost's soul disperse. Two ghostly figures quickened their pace towards me, the soul-catching chain in one of the ghostly enforcer's hands. The red-dressed ghost is already approaching. I stood in front of the woman in the red dress. Two ghost messengers. "Wait, don't act yet." I let out a loud shout. Stop the two ghost messengers. The two demons forgot each other. He shouted immediately, "Little mister, you are also a member of the Xuanmen. There is no reason to shield evil spirits. Quickly hand over this vengeful spirit to us." The two ghost messengers clearly became anxious. To capture the soul, the red-clad female ghost approached the two ghostly messengers. Also appeared extremely cautious. "Even if my soul is shattered, it won't let the other party catch up with itself." Two ghost messengers suddenly surrounded me from the left and right. They clearly had the intention to take action. I asked the red-clothed female ghost, "Daughter, why are you unwilling to enter the cycle of reincarnation?" The woman in red shook her head vigorously, staring at the two close Yanluo emissaries. There is resentment in the gaze. There is fear. Wait a moment. My voice is very deep. The two ghost messengers showed no intention of stopping. They want to take the red-dressed ghost. I got anxious. One push forward. Push a ghost envoy to the ground. Another ghost officer also didn't dare to come close. How could I have such strength? I looked at my hand with a face full of confusion. But actually, after all, this is the human world. And the ghost messenger is also a spirit. The ghostly Pat's Yin people are living Yin officials. The spirit is incredibly powerful. Even during the day, one can have an out-of-body experience. Just two mere ghosts. Nature is no match for me. These are also two ghost messengers. Upon learning my identity as a disciple of the ghost Tao, the reason they suddenly become extremely respectful towards me. The little ghost always bullies the weak and fears the strong. After the ghostly official got up, they no longer dare to approach me. Explained to me beside, all the evils in the world will eventually be repaid. I believe you must have stayed in this world for quite some time, severely disrupted the order of yin and yang, since you are unwilling to let the soul scatter. It should be entrusted to us. You kill like this yet, don't kill. Give or not give. What kind of reasoning is this? I asked that ghostly messenger. Is he going to be punished? The two ghost messengers did not respond. But the meaning is very clear. I asked the red-clothed ghost again. Daughter, are you afraid they will kill you? Mother shook her head, but the terror on her face had not faded. Then what are you afraid of? Mother started to struggle again. He is trying to express to me, no matter what, he wouldn't leave with the two ghost messengers either. I suddenly thought of the 18 layers of hell. He said, he is not a vengeful spirit that has lingered in the human world for 18 years, even if he has never harmed anyone. But he also disrupted the order of yin and yang. Journey to the underworld will be punished. That is more painful than death. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? At this moment, I don't know what to do. If we don't hand Mother over to the ghost officer, Mother won't last much longer. It will leave you terrified. If handed over to the ghostly messenger, the punishments of the 18 layers of hell, it will be worse than death, looking into Mother's pleading eyes. I can't help but let go of his hand. Two ghost messengers got drunk. Little master, you cannot let him go. I suddenly remembered something. Daughter, do you have any grievances? Refusing to enter the cycle of reincarnation. Mother nodded, nodding vigorously. Did Mother fall into the river and die back then? Isn't it an accident? I recall the various events that have happened during this time. Mothers fall into the river back then. There are indeed too many coincidences. Little master, if your mother truly has grievances, the 10 kings of hell, the iron-faced and unselfish, I will find out and give him justice. Just give us this wronged soul. Give him a fair judgment. I sneered. Lai Chonglu has already withdrawn from the Xuanmen, yet still have to be schemed against. Corpse transformation evil. The vengeful spirit is incomplete. Has anyone given him justice? Lai Chonglu, you said that mysterious one. Hey, he actually died. A ghostly messenger gasped in shock. Xuanmen Laosan, I didn't expect my grandfather to have such a ranking. You need to know. Mr. Chen is just an old 9 in the Xuanmen. That one ranked first. Could it be Mr. Chen and Wai Kanin, the person from the feared north? At the same time, I also have doubts. They as ghost messengers, actually. I didn't know my grandfather had passed away. I understand. Another ghostly messenger seemed to recall something. Little master, if you don't want to, your mother's spirit has scattered. Let's go meet the earth god, land god. I was startled. There are indeed deities in this world. The two ghost messengers exchanged a smile. Believe and it will be. If you don't believe, it won't exist. Two ghost messengers headed towards the earth god temple. You can rest assured. I will definitely investigate your grievances, avenging your blood feud. My words come out. The red-clothed female ghost seemed much more at ease. I pulled the woman in the red dress, stepped behind the two ghost officers. The woman in red is also very scared. But there was no struggle. Upon entering the temple of the land deity, a dark mahogany table in the temple hall. There are thick books on top. A short, fat, ugly old man, squatting at that rosewood table, pointing at the woman in red ghost. Who is this? This is the legendary earth god. This is clearly a very ugly little ghost. Two ghost messengers stepped forward. In a low voice, he explained the situation to the chubby old man. When the land god looked at me again, the fierce look in their eyes had vanished. Then he opened the thick books on the bedside table, after a stick of incense. He then asked below, Wang Han is from Lai family village, Xiangxi year, Dinghai month, born on the day of the high zodiac, Saint Zhu Xiaoli. My mother knelt on the ground and nodded. You were greatly favored by the people of the Wei and Jin dynasties. It is an injustice. In the capital city, decisions are made for the sake of the ghost path disciples face. 2 ghost messengers will escort you on your journey. You don't need to worry about losing your mind along the way. Then the land god took out his identification badge, handed it to the 2 ghost messengers. 2 ghost messengers approached, the red-clad female ghost being escorted in front of me. I blocked their way. Then the earth god said, Little master, your mother truly died with resentment. The 10 Yama kings have their own judgments, and the 2 ghost messengers will personally escort your mother to the outskirts of the capital city. You can rest assured. She will be fine. I glanced back at the woman in the red dress. She has already lost her previous hostility, become stable and unguarded. So he spoke to the land deity. In that case, thank you very much. On both sides of the land god there are 2 passageway gates. One is the direct path to the western paradise. One is the road to the underworld. A bright future awaits at the checkpoint. A checkpoint shrouded in darkness. The ghostly envoy pulled my mother, entering the path to the Yellow Springs. It is said that, after death, one must pass through the 13 trials of hell. Reincarnation is possible. The 13 battles of hell is the path all souls must take. Life and death matters. Since there are 2 ghost messengers sending my mother, I shouldn't worry too much. Thank you, land god. I thanked the earth god. Ghost Path sect member, you have not yet gained the ability to enter the underworld. Let's go back first. Then the land god suddenly waved his hand. Everything around is dim. When I woke up, I am lying in the room. It's good to be back. Mr. Chen saw that I was awake. Clearly, it was a sigh of relief. Mr. Chen's appearance startled me. He looks older than before. The skin has turned a dead gray color. This is a sign of someone about to die. It's obvious. Chen Zion is not going to live much longer. And I can only help you up to here. Mr. Chen, if you are not here, where should I go from here? A wave of sadness washed over me. All the way here. It's all Mr. Chen helping me. Like a mentor. But he will die. I am powerless. Mr. Chen's eyes were filled with helplessness. He sighed and said, Quickly go and let your uncle and them know. Carry your grandmother up the mountain. It's almost dawn outside. It's time to take grandma up the mountain. When I walked out the door, Mr. Chen called out to me, Anyazid, if Lai Zhantai, second granduncle, Omake, don't pierce him. I couldn't help but ask, Fine, since everything in the village has been taken care of, next you will step into the mysterious realm. Don't bring up unnecessary matters again, even unnecessary things. Why bother to care about the truth? I don't understand the meaning of Mr. Chen's words. But just at that moment, someone has arrived. Many people have come, with my 2 cousins leading the way. There are several strong young men. Uncle Tang is here to take grandma up the mountain. There are no excessive formalities. Mr. Chen had his cousin and them. Just carry the coffin up the mountain. Even Mr. Chen did not go with them. He is already very weak, could die at any moment. On the way, I asked my uncle about my great-grandfather's situation. He told me, Second grandpa is awake. It was he who made Uncle Tang and them come help carry my grandmother up the mountain. At this moment, I have many doubts in my heart. Why does second uncle become Waikan's lackey? What is his purpose in doing this? When we returned home after burying Grandma, it's nearly noon. I arrived at Mr. Chen's house. He is already asleep. The breath is faint, and it's much calmer. Let out frustration. Anyaze, come out. Second Grandpa has something to ask you. The voice of second uncle came from outside the door. I frowned. At this moment, second Grandpa came to find me. I fear the goal is not simple. I walked out of the room. Second uncle, is there something going on? I didn't expose him, because Mr. Chen had instructed. Mr. Chen can see farther than I can. There must be a reason for him. Is Mr. Chen close to passing away? Uncle unexpectedly revealed Mr. Chen's current situation. I frowned. No response. Great-grandfather said again, perhaps there is someone who can save him. I hurriedly asked, who is it? Phoenix Valley. Granny Tian. Second uncle seems to know a lot. Where is Phoenix Valley? Who is Grandma Tian? Even though I know second uncle's purpose, it might not be simple. But at this moment, saving people is the priority. I cannot ignore Mr. Chen's life and death. Anyaze, do you believe in second uncle? Great uncle suddenly asked me, what does second uncle really want to say? I looked at him. He had a sincere expression on his face, carrying a sense of helplessness. Seeing that I wasn't speaking, he said again, Phoenix Valley is in Xiangxi. It turns out his goal was to make me go to Xiangxi. Indeed, second uncle is Weikan's lapdog. I stared at my second granduncle. The footsteps began to retreat, even ready to chant spells at any moment. Uncle naturally saw through my thoughts, but he just smiled bitterly. No defense. There wasn't much more to say. At that moment, a cough echoed through the room. Mr. Chen has woken up. You can ask Mr. Chen to find out. This is the only way to save him. Elder second uncle finished speaking, then turned and left. I entered the room. Mr. Chen has already sat up from the bed. Anyaze, is everything taken care of? He got out of bed, although it seems like a serious illness has been cured. But I can see this is just a fleeting glimpse of light. So much time has passed. Lai Gan's body. They should no longer be in the village. You should go too, leaving the village. Don't come back anymore. Mr. Chen, is it in Fenghuang Valley, Xiangxi? There is a woman named Tian Popo. I can save you. My words come out. Mr. Chen suddenly froze. He looked at me with a questioning gaze. Who told you this? It's second uncle. Mr. Chen suddenly looked surprised again, suddenly fell silent, seemed to be lost in deep thought. Nearly 10 minutes passed. I was the first to break the silence. Mr. Chen, can Granny Tian really save you? Mr. Chen sighed. Maybe. I am going to Fenghuang Valley in Xiangxi. Please, Granny Qiu Tian, come to save us. Mr. Chen, you must keep going. Hope ignited in my heart, even in the dragon's pool and tiger's den. For Mr. Chen, I am also willing to take a chance. He won't come. I will go with you. Mr. Chen surprisingly did not object. This makes me feel much more at ease. It seems he doesn't want to die either. After all, even ants struggle to survive. But his body is like this. Can we still reach Xiangxi? Mr. Chen told me, go back and rest well. Tonight we are ready to set off. I am confused. Why can't we walk during the day? In the realm of the Xuanmen, a third of its practitioners are human. 7 parts are ghosts. Leave when it gets dark. If nothing goes wrong, perhaps we can reach Xiangxi before dawn. I got ready to go home. Then I took a nap on the sofa. When it gets dark, Mr. Chen came to my house. He actually looks like more energetic than during the day. If it weren't for the faint dark aura on the forehead, I even thought he had fully recovered. The dark energy on the forehead represents the hard candy turning black. It has been proven that Chen Zion will not live for more than a few days. I will use the remaining eggs at home, made fried rice, but I burned it. After a simple meal with Mr. Chen, I arrived at my great-uncle's house. I told my uncle I will leave the village, and gave him the keys to the house. He asked me when I would come back. I replied, "It won't be long." My uncle took me to the village entrance. Great-grandfather has arrived. They silently watched him leave. My figure fades into the night. This is my farewell. Perhaps it's a final farewell. A sudden pang of heartache. This departure. I don't know if I can come back in this lifetime. I want to take a look back. This village has lived for 18 years. But Mr. Chen blocked my view. Don't look back. Once you enter the mysterious gate, it's hard to look back. Once you enter the mystical realm, it's hard to look back. It turns out, at this moment, I am no longer an ordinary person. Possessing the magnetic sword, add the sound of the tracks and watch the wax tree. I no longer have a way back. We are walking to Xiangxi, walking west along the mountain path. The distance to Xiangxi. It's only 20 kilometers. Under normal circumstances, we can arrive before dawn. Along the way, I asked Mr. Chen, since Waikun is also in Xiangxi, and second uncle is his informant, so have we already fallen into Waikun's trap? This is his trap. But this Phoenix Valley, you have to go. Mr. Chen spoke very confidently. Why must I go? This mysterious Granny Tian. What brings you here this time? I voiced my doubts to Mr. Chen. You have also instructed me before. After you were born, we must go to Fenghuang Valley. This Granny Tian, he was once the mighty king of Valley. It was 40 years ago. The Valley King battling with the Heavenly Master. I was stunned on the spot. I can guess. Tian Popo is definitely not an ordinary person, but she never expected that. It turns out to be the legendary Valley King. Waikun once told me, over 40 years ago, Gu Wan and that self-proclaimed Heavenly Master from the Xuanmen sect. Once there was a war. After that battle, Gu Wan and Xiangxi reached a certain agreement. Women Xuanmen, from now on, well water and river water don't mix. You know about this too. Mr. Chen was clearly taken aback. It was Waikun who told me, Mr. Chen, since Granny Tian is the Rice King, is that Daymaster the one? The person from the north whom you fear. My words made Mr. Chen stop in his tracks. Mr. Chen looked towards the north. It feels like falling into memories. A deep expression of pain suddenly appeared on his face. The person from the north, it seemed like a scar of his. But his gaze, I have proven my guess. I didn't continue to ask him, because Mr. Chen can speak. Mr. Chen walked over nonchalantly, kicked my leg. I kicked the paper figure. I finally see clearly. That was a tattered paper figure. The bamboo branch that supports him. It has been severed in half. 2 arms has already broken apart. Mr. Chen laughed. The shadow you saw back then. It must be him. Arriving at the place where Luo Zuzi was cremated. There are many footprints on the ground. It seems that Waikun and the others. I have searched here a long time ago. I simply exist in that ash. A mound of earth was piled up for Luo Zuzi. It can be considered a grave. 3 incense sticks have been lit. There is no excessive memorization. quickly got up and left in a hurry. Mr. Chen sighed. There are no more Liuzuzi, the wind village of the Forbidden Realm. It's just a deserted village. Just as we were about to leave the canyon, the eerie sound of bells. Suddenly, a sound echoed in the wind. Mr. Chen and I stopped at the same time. The sound of the bell is very rhythmic. It definitely can't be shaken out by second uncle. It seems Waikun has arrived. Mr. Chen grabbed my arm. First hide. It seems that Waikun isn't sending us to Xiangxi. Mr. Chen and I once again retreated into the dilapidated village. In the darkness of night, my vision sharply narrowed. It's foggy now. It's the same fog as last time. It is Misty Town. I asked Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen nodded, gazing intently at the exit of the canyon. Step, 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 step. Soon, outside the canyon, the sound of footsteps accompanied by the rhythm of bells rang out. The sound drifted far and near. Preparing to enter the canyon, I immediately made the judgment. That is the sound made when a corpse jumps. Waikun is transporting corpses. It's not Waikun who came. Mr. Chen's words. I am puzzled once again. It's not Waikun who has arrived. Who could that be? And also, how did Mr. Chen determine? The other party is not Waikun. Until a lantern appeared at the mouth of the canyon. I just realized this. The ones who transport the corpses are two people. A person is leading the way with a lantern. Another person, shaking the corpse of the same age behind as we move forward. As they drew closer, I saw clearly that the ones driving the corpses were two tall figures. A young person in their 20s. Senior brother. This canyon is very eerie. We need to hurry and complete the task assigned by our master. Why did you run in here? That year, the ghostly gate and the crippled man. When living in seclusion here, the sealed village is a forbidden area for the entire school. I just wanted to try my luck. Maybe we can still find some treasures he left behind back then. You mentioned that slanted porcelain sword. Didn't the master say? Isn't the porcelain sword in Feng village? Let's hurry on our way. As long as we send these bodies back to Xiangxi, we have set out on our journey. No hurry. Shady. Little did they know that the magical artifacts are only known to those destined to possess them. Also, there's Chen Jiu, the disciple who injured Master, on the way to Xiangxi. If we run into him, exactly drove him to Xiangxi. Isn't that a great achievement? Senior brother, are you crazy? That's a presence even the master can't provoke. Just the two of us. Junior brother, do not forget. Master said, after his battle with his master, we can only last for 7 days at most. At this moment, he is at his wit's end. It is the moment for us, brothers in arms, to make our names by defeating him. But I still feel a bait. The sound gradually fades away. Mr. Chen coldly observed everything from the shadows. I asked him, they are Waikun's disciples. Mr. Chen nodded. It seems Waikun won't live much longer either. What? Mr. Chen's words shocked me even more. How did you know Waikun was going to die? The master sends his disciples to embark on their journey. This means the master is about to leave the sect. Since Waikun has betrayed Granny Tian, there is no way back. Even if it's death, he can only die in the Xuanmen Jianghu. So, since his disciple is about to leave, it means he won't live much longer. Next, let's follow them to Xiangxi. It is predicted that Waikun will die. Mr. Chen's gaze. Hope has emerged. Two competing masters, searching for the shamanic arts in the dilapidated village, stopped in front of the grave mound of Luo Kwezi. It seems they just left not long ago. Chedi, we need to speed up and catch up. Chikshin, Are we really the opponents of Xuanmen Chenjiu? He ranked ninth in the Xuanmen back then. He will grow old too. We have empty souls. What are you still afraid of? The two herdsmen walked towards the mouth of the canyon, but soon they found themselves lost, encountered a ghostly wall. Watching the two anxious apprentices rush forward, I asked, "Mr. Chen, isn't this fog their tactic?" "Still unclear. Take a look first. What will their reaction be next?" An hour has quickly passed. The two disciples have already started to feel anxious. They kept wandering around the village. Mr. Chen said, "I understand. This should be Wai Kun's scheme. As soon as they arrive, this fog formation will activate. His purpose, it should be used to train these two disciples. Only by walking out of this foggy maze, and deliver the body to the designated location on time. Only then did they truly set off. Very quickly, that senior brother is coming." He spoke to his nearly broken junior brother. "Shidi, don't worry. I want— This is not a ghost wall, but it's the master's fog formation. In fact, the master had already foreseen it. We will enter the sealed village. This is a test of our spiritual incantation." Then the two horsemen suddenly chanted a spell. That spell is quite unique. I don't understand at all. Mr. Chen explained to me. This is the incantation of the fog gate lineage. It is spoken in Miao language. The two practitioners took a long time to recite the incantation. Half an hour later, I discovered visibility in the mist. It began to fade away. The fog is starting to clear. Half an hour later, the fog has almost cleared. Two bearers are carrying the bodies, hastily walking towards the outside of the canyon. After they walked far away, Mr. Chen and I followed behind. You can tell by their lanterns. They are not like Wai Kun, in the sharp forces of the night. But just as we were about to leave the canyon, Mr. Chen suddenly stopped, staring into the distance. The gaze gradually became serious. I looked in the direction he was gazing. On the distant wall, there are several bright red blood-like characters. "I am waiting for you in Xiangxi." I was astonished. They haven't come close to here just now. Could it be left by Wai Kun? It's not Wai Kun. Mr. Chen then explored further. Wai Kun's disciple is not simple. Mr. Chen's words startled me. I can't believe they have already found us. I asked Mr. Chen, "What should we do next?" "At this point, we'll just take it one step at a time. We will chase after that commander." But soon there was no trace of them. Their speed is too fast. Mr. Chen is no longer who he used to be. We are lost again. Good on the ground. Footprints left by a corpse after jumping. Let's continue tracking. Until we arrived at Mr. Chen's last time, when Waikon and I were mutually injured on that sunny path. A figure in the distance blocked our way. "Mr. Chen, long time no see." It is Lai Gang. On Lai Gang's shoulder, still lying there, that eagle demon. He can still speak. Was it really the case that he was killed by the eagle killer back then? It's not Lai Gang. Quick rewind. Mr. Chen pulled me back, but we just stepped back a few paces. The sound of bells ringing behind. We had no choice but to stop in our tracks. It's those two disciples of Wai Kun. They are controlling several corpses. Poison our retreat. We fell into the trap. Heaven and earth's mysterious religion, root of all Kai. I immediately recited the incantation, as the crimson branding iron appeared in hand. They also stopped their steps approaching me, compared to the wary expressions on Lai Gang and Yingxia's faces, those two corpse drivers, but revealed a face full of greed. A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. Mr. Chen said with a cold smile, his voice not loud. Only I can hear it. The two corpse drivers chuckled coldly. Vui Dao men ran. What we left behind is Chen Jiu. This sword is given to us. We can let you go. I want this sword. You can come and get it yourself. I spread my palm open. A ruler like a branding iron, crossed in the palm. That corpse-driving master brother handed the soul-controlling spirit in my hand to my junior apprentice, then walked towards me. At this moment in his gaze, only greed. Damn it. Don't go near him. Using soul control, Lai Gang's voice came through. But that corpse courier senior brother, at this moment there is only this sword in my eyes. I can't take Lai Gang's words to heart at all. He reached out to grab the sword in my hand. How could I possibly let him succeed? I gripped this sword tightly. A backhand stroke. This sword falls. It struck him right at the waist. A loud shout. That corpse-carrying master immediately fell to the ground, with a face full of anguish. This sword can break the physical body of those in the Xuanmen, and the Dharma body was shattered. It means the soul is damaged. This sword, though I couldn't leave him with external injuries, but it wounded his soul. Ding, 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 ding. The corpse handler, seeing this, the younger disciple, immediately shook the bronze bell. Those standing corpses suddenly jumped up, charged towards me. Enya, be careful, Mr. Chen reminded me, but I was already prepared. As the sword struck the lifeless body, the corpse immediately slumped to the ground. No longer controlled, the spirit breaks free. Mr. Chen took out the talisman. The body dared not approach. This allows me to fully confront them. Soon, 7 or 8 corpses fell haphazardly to the ground. Lai Gang was retreating as he approached me from a distance. I can feel his breath. That is the breath of the dead. But at this moment, Lai Gang, the soul is undoubtedly still within the body. This leaves me puzzled. There's no time to think too much. I charged at the 2 corpse handlers. Compared to the dead, they are the biggest threat. But I couldn't get close to them, because the sound of the bell suddenly became urgent. A blur appeared before my eyes. A bright figure appeared. 2 corpse bearers appeared in double vision. A whirlwind of chaos. I collapsed uncontrollably. It is that bell controlling my soul. In a state of confusion, 2 corpse handlers are walking towards me. But soon they knelt on the ground. In the distance, Yuduang caught a glimpse. There seems to be a vague silhouette, faintly visible. He was dressed entirely in black, wearing a straw hat, a short figure completely covered from head to toe. I don't know how much time has passed. I found that I could move. I get up. There are no corpse drivers around. Lai Gang and Xiangxi are also gone. Even Mr. Chen. I don't know where it has gone. I walked towards that straw hat person. I don't know his age. But since he was able to defeat Lai Gang and the corpse chaser, that must be someone extraordinary. What should I call him? Senior, thank you for saving my life. I stand behind him. Thank him. But there was no response. I asked tentatively again, Senior, may I ask your esteemed name? I will repay you in the future. He suddenly turned around. A sense of invisible oppression swept over. I was so frightened that I dared not ask any further questions. He wrapped himself up tightly. It was meant to hide my identity, so I shouldn't inquire about his name. This would be very impolite. Go back. He reached out to push me away. His voice is very cold, with a hoarse voice, cannot distinguish between male and female. He was clearly several meters away from me, but he pushed it away with one hand, but it was pushed directly onto me, and my entire body felt light as a feather. He was pushed out over 10 meters. The scene before me began to blur, until I heard a familiar voice by my ear. "Anazid, wake up. Anazid, wake up." It's Mr. Chen's voice. I woke up suddenly, searching everywhere. No sight of the straw hat person was found. There is also no trace of Lai Gang and the others. Is that so? Right. It's a wandering soul. The straw hat man truly exists. He saved us. Mr. Chen hurriedly asked me, "Inazit, is your Word document still there?" I opened my palm. When the cicada shell landed in my hands, Mr. Chen clearly breathed a sigh of relief. But immediately he showed a face full of astonishment and suspicion. "Strange. Why didn't they take the lyrics? And they also let us go." It seems that Mr. Chen did not meet the Straw Hat Man. I did not tell Mr. Chen about the Straw Hat Man. The Straw Hat Man saved us. Not revealing one's true self. There must be some hidden reasons. I must keep it a secret for him. We continue to move forward until the sun rises. Mr. Chen pointed to the village in the distance. "That over there is Xiangxi. Arrived over there. We can no longer walk with the identity of the Xuan Main. Arrived outside the village. Just in time, there was an old farmer herding his ox to the field. Mr. Chen stepped forward to greet them. When asked about Phoenix Valley, the other person just shook their head, unwilling to say more. No result. We can only move forward. Mr. Chen told me along the way. This is his second time coming to Xiangxi. I asked him when it was for the first time. His eyes carried memories. More than 40 years ago. At that time, the Wu Men was flourishing in almost every village. There are extremely powerful Wu Men experts stationed here. If I had met Lai Lao San back then, I only fear giving an explanation here. You can see from his eyes. His bond with his grandfather is quite deep. I asked him curiously. Grandpa spent so many years in Xiangxi, so as not to be ostracized by the people of Wu Men. Ghost Path and Black Gate. There are countless intertwined connections. So even at this moment, you take on the identity of a ghost sect disciple, walking in the Xiangxi and Miao regions. It doesn't completely break the agreement between the Celestial Master and the Ancient King. Actually, whether it's the Xuanmei or the Wumain, as long as they are scholarly individuals, they are collectively referred to as the practitioners of the Xuanmen. And your grandfather was able to walk in Xiangxi. But it was not because of his identity. It's because your grandfather back then once helped the Ancient King with a matter. I never expected Grandpa and the Ancient King. There are such relationships. I asked urgently, "What kind of thing is it?" Mr. Chen shook his head. "I don't know, but someone has speculated. Lai Lao San once resembled the Ancient King. A certain agreement was reached in secret. This inevitably reminds me of the battle between the Celestial Master and the Ancient King 40 years ago. It was also that year. Grandpa has come home. From then on, he withdrew from the mystical path. That battle between the Celestial Master and the Ancient King back then. Who won? Since Mr. Chen was once from the north. A disciple who dares to present themselves as a Celestial Master. Then he is more likely to. I know the outcome of that battle. He won." Mr. Chen gazed towards the north. He came down from the north back then, already severely injured. But he still dared to venture alone into Miao and killed in Xiangxi. That battle, the woman withers, Ancient King re-injured, and promised him, "This life I will never step out of Phoenix Valley." But I also hope he follows the teachings of the ancestral master, the rules that were left behind back then, injured body, and still rely on one's own strength. The entire Wu-men withered away, defeating the ancient king. Mr. Chen's words. I couldn't help but gasp in shock. However, Mr. Chen's next words, I can't help but be in awe of this powerful existence, and felt a deep apprehension. He told me when he left back then, he has comprehended a new realm. If given a few more decades, his strength will surely improve by leaps and bounds, tenfold or more improvement, although he is doing it to bring me back to his side. But he would never boast. That is definitely not a joke. It was soon noon. We passed through a village again. Mr. Chen asked me to wait outside the village. He went in to ask for directions, but there was no result either. It seemed as if everyone in the Miao village, everyone is very sensitive about the name Phoenix Valley until the sun sets in the west. As we passed through a village again, Mr. Chen and I are both thirsty and tired, so they went to a villager's house to ask for water. That family invited Mr. Chen and me to dinner. We stayed reluctantly. To entertain us, they even killed a chicken for us. This made both Mr. Chen and me feel a bit embarrassed. It seems that as long as Phoenix Valley is not mentioned, the simple Miao people are very hospitable. Mr. Chen was chatting with the male host about everyday life. He told Mr. Chen, 2 sons are working in the south, due to limited family resources, in their 30s and still unmarried, until it was almost time for dinner. The male host said, by the way, invite his great-uncle to dinner. Mr. Chen and I both looked on in amazement. The male owner of this house is already in his 50s or 60s. There is actually still a great-grandfather alive. How old must he be now? Mr. Chen tentatively asked about the age of the elder. The farmer told us, granduncle was born in the 16th year of the Guangxu era. This year marks exactly 99 years. 100 years old, the true elder of 3 dynasties. I fell while chopping wood on the mountain recently. I climbed back myself. At that time he was covered in blood, just when we thought he had turned his back. But he miraculously survived, and within a few days the injuries were completely healed. He joked with us after he woke up, because of an old friend we haven't seen in many years. Still haven't seen it. King Yama's mercy. So he borrowed a month of his lifespan. A month later, he will go down to report. The old man is always able to predict many things. Thinking that what he said might also be true, I will call him over. After the male owner left, Mr. Chen looked at me with a serious expression. This granduncle is not simple. The battle from 40 years ago. Let those from the older generation of the witch clan hate it to the bone for our lineage. If he is a master of the witch sect, our identity is naturally impossible to conceal. At that time, you must reveal your grandfather's identity. Xiangxi can save lives. I nodded, regarding this family's great-grandfather, and is full of curiosity. Before long, the male host brought an elderly man with him. When the visitor entered the room, Mr. Chen and I jumped in fright on the spot. The so-called grandfather is actually Wai Kan. First, a shock. Then he laughed heartily. It was as if Mr. Chen was an old friend he hadn't seen in a long time. Great-uncle, you actually know each other. The male head of the family. Astonished beyond belief. King Yazi, quick, prepare the wine. This Chen brother. It is an old friend I must see even in death. Chen Liadi. Time truly does not spare anyone. Thanks to King Yan for lending me a month's life. This is what allows you and me to meet again after 40 years. able to reunite in Xiangxi. Today, don't be polite. Just treat it like your own home, full and satisfied. Sleep with me tonight. Let's continue reminiscing. Waikun held on to Mr. Chen's hand. Two people are sitting on chairs. It felt as if they were old friends who hadn't met in years. Completely forget about the past events. I glanced at Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen shook his head, indicate to me not to act impulsively. Waikun poured wine for Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen didn't dare to drink. Until Xiangxi takes the lead, he finally took a sip. At the dining table, Waikun drinks alcohol very frequently. Hunger brought Mr. Chen and me together. It quickly hid away. During this time, Mr. Chen still gritted his teeth. After exchanging a few words with Waikun, they became like brothers. I have been keeping an eye on Waikun's movements, as long as he shows any suspicious signs of his peers. I recited the spell without hesitation. Transform into a word item. After a hearty meal and drink, Mr. Chen is about to take his leave. Waikun seems to have drunk too much, repeatedly trying to keep us. A face full of reluctance. Add the male owner of this house. Also about the friendship of the two elders. Moved to tears. He also began to persuade us to stay. At this moment, I must leave. It's really unacceptable. We can only grit our teeth and stay. Waikun took us to his home. The male host escorted us all the way. On the way, Mr. Chen grabbed Waikun. Gritting his teeth, he called him brother. The two people just like this. Walking towards Waikun's house together, I felt very awkward standing by. Mr. Chen held onto Waikun's hand tightly, is afraid he will take out his peers. The two of them reminisced about the past along the way, with tears of emotion in my eyes. That hypocritical performance. It made my hair stand on end. As one reaches a certain age, the skin will also thicken accordingly, until they arrived at Waikun's house. It is a dilapidated thatched cottage. He is just a lonely old man. His two disciples have not yet appeared. It seems it's not here. This reassures us a lot. The sky is getting darker, because there are outsiders present. Mr. Chen will continue to perform. Seeing Waikun asleep, the male host who welcomed us, after politely saying a few words, "This is just returning. Mr. Chen," I whispered a shout. Mr. Chen gestured for me to remain silent. At this moment, Waikun let out a silly sound. It seems he really has had too much to drink. Mr. Chen stood up, quietly left the village with me. We ran several kilometers in one breath, until arriving at a fork in the road, one south and one north. We finally stopped to rest. Mr. Chen, which way should we go next? Looking at the two paths, one to the left and one to the right, Mr. Chen fell into deep thought, unable to find Phoenix Valley. We are all confused. You still have to go. A helpless voice came from behind. Waikun has arrived. Mr. Chen and I stood up alertly. I moved closer to Waikun and quickly grabbed his arm. Waikun did not resist. Of course, there was no strength left to resist. We observed during mealtime. Waikun's injuries have not healed. He does not use magic. He is an elderly person who has just recovered from a serious illness. I can crush him at any time, and he kept us here. It might just be to buy time, wait for his two disciples to return. Mr. Chen questioned, "Waikun, what do you really want to do?" "Chen Liadi, have you really forgotten that here? Don't call me little brother. At my age, cannot bear it in front of you. You are his disciple. Calling you little brother is not wrong. Chen Jiu, if you are willing to go back, less talk. If you want to keep me, let's get started. You and I are both people who are about to die. Fight to the death. What is the meaning of it all? Next, you can rest assured. As long as I am alive, my two disciples wouldn't dare to touch you. But you all need to be wary of Lai Gang. He won't give up easily. Don't mention the ancient kings along the way. This is taboo. What you need to do. I inquired about the location of the Laodong Miao village and reported the name of Lai Chongluo to the village chief. Caiyu, someone is leading you to meet the ancient king. Sorry, I can't assist with that. It's obviously directed at me, Mr. Chen said. And Yesai, the sole control is no longer in his hands. Let him go. Let's go. Heading south, I asked Mr. Chen. Is Waikun's word reliable? We once discussed metaphysics together, and your grandfather. Just because later our positions changed. We had to become enemies. Mr. Chen fell into memories once again. Once they were indeed friends. Perhaps this is why, the reason why Kun saved Mr. Chen back then. Also, back when the village was sealed off. Mr. Chen can sense the rhythm of the bell's chime. The person speaking is not Wai Kun. This is why. These things can also be proven. They were once very familiar, understanding each other deeply. Late at night, we are already exhausted, resting in a dilapidated thatched cottage in the mountains. The thatched house is very narrow. No windows. Piles of straw on the ground. A nauseating smell of mold wafted through the air. This is not a place for people to live. Mr. Chen told me this is the corpse transporting battle used back in the day, because transporting corpses usually takes place at night. If the journey is long, when dawn breaks, they will dispose of the bodies, parked in such a closed-off room. Continue the corpse transport into the night. There are many mosquitoes in the thatched cottage, making it impossible to sleep. Unavoidable. We had no choice but to start a fire again, using smoke to drive away mosquitoes. Relieve bites. Early morning. We were awakened by the sound of gongs and drums. Stepped out of the thatched cottage. A group of people happened to pass through the mountains. It is a funeral procession. The leading Xiangxi and Mr. Chen. Our eyes met perfectly. Mr. Chen clasped his fists towards him. The other party also cupped their fists in response. We stepped out of the morgue. It couldn't possibly be an ordinary person. The other party saw through our identities. This is Mr. Chen greeting the other party, as the crowd moved toward us. We have arrived in the distance. Wait a moment. Just as we were about to leave quickly, Mr. Chen suddenly stopped me. Is there a problem? Mr. Chen pointed at the coffin being carried. Look at that coffin. I looked towards the raised coffin. Faintly visible, bursts of black mist emitted. This is a killing aura. Mr. Chen nodded. That's right. This is the aura of death. This is the realm of people. Just afraid it will turn into a disaster. What should I do? I asked Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen frowned. This situation is quite tricky. As a practitioner of the Xuanmen, when encountering such things, we can't just ignore it. But the Xiangxi family, one matter should not have two masters. Our insertion, it's just going against each other, will offend people. I am filled with rage. Such heavy malice can't be seen. This funeral master, clearly just half-baked. And as it, just do as you see fit. Mr. Chen handed the decision-making power to me. I hesitated. After all, the purpose of our journey is. It is to find the ancient king to save Mr. Chen. I don't want to waste time. Let's go. I have made a decision. I am not a saint. Will the people from Guangzhong be able to dispel evil? I am more worried about Mr. Chen's life and death. Just as we turned to leave, the coffin suddenly fell to the ground with a bang. To be precise, the rope on that machine broke. On the way to the platform, the coffin fell to the ground midway. Where the coffin landed, it is the burial site. Mr. Chen was surprised. The aura is so heavy. We stopped, looking at the coffin again. A group of people quickly began to discuss. Someone suggested to continue the Taiwan issue. Some say they want to be buried underground. Finally, the filial son made a decision. Let everyone continue with the stage. But next, a group of Taiguan people had their faces all flushed. The coffin was not lifted. Everyone began to discuss animatedly. Anyone with a bit of understanding knows, at the time of the closing ceremony, such things happen. Not auspicious. Mr. Xiangxi, carrying a gong locating everywhere, with a face full of surprise, said, "This is great luck." Liu Leitu chose an excellent feng shui spot for himself, buried underground. Blessings for future generations. Bless the descendants. After the filial sons heard Mr. Sang's words, the worries disappeared immediately, became cheerful and smiling. But at this moment, a person jumps out from the crowd. Liu family brothers. This land belongs to my family. Such a great feng shui treasure land. I saved this for myself to use 100 years later. You can't just ignore your brother's rudeness for too long. Has taken over the feng shui treasure spot of my home. 3 filial sons. Where would they let this go? A place of feng shui that can bless future generations. After a discussion among the filial sons, Elder Xiao Changdao, isn't it just money? You say a number first. This is what was said. The master of that land and Mr. Sanzang exchanged glances. All showed a satisfied expression. Yet the landlord still pretended to be elegant. This is not about money. Next, we will discuss the money for buying the land. At this moment, Mr. Xiangxi, dishonoring the mystical path, Mr. Chen has already walked over. This coffin can't be lifted. It's probably your half-baked knowledge, sir. Mr. Chen spoke. His words captured everyone's attention. Friend, every profession has its own rules. You do it this way. That's a bit excessive. The elder Zaya Chen walked over. I sent a pack of cigarettes to Mr. Chen and myself. I'm embarrassed to answer, but Mr. Chen was not polite at all. This old gentleman, today is the day my father goes up the mountain. Cannot entertain any more. What's the matter? Let's talk about it later. This is clearly driving us away. Mr. Chen signaled me with his eyes to open the coffin. We pretend to retreat. When we pushed it next to the coffin, at the same time crouched down to exert force. The coffin lid was suddenly pushed open by us. At the moment the coffin lid opened, a wave of black mist emerged from the coffin. Everyone was shocked. However, the sinister aura from that coffin, but it made me feel a wave of familiarity. It is the ominous aura. I never expected that the Yin Sha had already arrived here. It seems our journey will not be very peaceful. Mr. Chen and I locked eyes. Mr. Chen whispered, "The matters of Yin Sha rise because of us. This matter is not simple. We cannot ignore it." Inside the coffin, it is the body of an elderly man with skin that appears dark black. The fangs have already extended from the corners of the mouth. The nails have also grown long. The corpse has clearly started to decay. Mr. Chen reached into the coffin. The body was gesturing. He is forming a seal. Friend, what do you mean by this? At that moment, Mr. Xiangxi, still questioning Mr. Chen, but the people around, after seeing the appearance of that corpse, they have distanced themselves from the coffin. The three filial sons also chose silence. Such a thing happened. They find it hard to accept. Regarding the Mr. Xiangxi in front of us, all showed signs of doubt. Mr. Chen said coldly, "According to the rules, we really shouldn't interfere in this matter. But I have to remind you, this corpse clearly collided with a malevolent force. You are Mr. Bai. You should understand how to do it." Mr. Chen finished speaking. He pulled me and wanted to leave. Mr. Xiangxi reassured everyone not to be afraid. "Tell everyone. The body had a bit of an accident, but it's not difficult to handle." But just at that moment, a loud shout suddenly came from behind. I suddenly turned around. The corpse in the coffin unexpectedly stood up. I am shocked. A resurrection in broad daylight. It's simply unbelievable. I quickly discovered the reason. Although the corpse stands up, but it didn't bite anyone, did not run away either. Mr. Chen's finger, secretly casting a spell. It was Mr. Chen who took action. "Liu family brothers, I'm not going to take care of this anymore. I don't want the money anymore. You all handle it yourselves." What exceeded my expectations was Mr. Xiangxi. They just ran away directly. Many people escaped after that Mr. Xiangxi's funeral, scattered and fled. To understand from the perspective of an ordinary person, seeing the corpse painted with death, it's not necessarily a good thing. The filial son of that year held on to two brothers. Running towards us, old Mr. Liu Bu, they knelt directly in front of us, request for our assistance, and vowed to take revenge. Mr. Chen and I are returning. At this moment, the funeral procession, there are still a dozen people left behind. They are all close relatives of the deceased. Mr. Chen stepped forward and slapped the corpse. After reciting a few incantations, the body lay back in the coffin. Mr. Chen's actions make everyone firmly believe in his abilities. We examined the body. There are no marks from being bitten by the eagle killer. This left us puzzled. Mr. Chen inquired about the cause of the deceased's death. They told Mr. Chen the deceased died from illness, 7 days of silence, and died after being bedridden for several months. It seems that everything is unrelated to Xiangxi. Due to time constraints, we deal with malevolence in a very brutal way. Mr. Chen asked everyone to turn back. Then I directly conjured a magnetic arrow, dispersed the malevolent energy within the corpse. During this period, there were bursts of sorrowful cries from the shadows. Scared a group of people quite a bit, and our approach, it is to let the wronged souls within the corpses. Soul flying and spirit scattering. However, compared to the corpse evil, it will harm people. We feel no guilt about this. Mr. Chen had them prepare glutinous rice. After placing the glutinous rice into the mouth of the corpse, Mr. Chen asked everyone to move the coffin, carried to the originally intended burial site, and let the filial sons prepare for cremation. The dutiful sons are in a dilemma. Mr. Chen said it was remarkable. If a corpse turns into a malevolent spirit, it can harm others. The first thing to look for is one's own family. Let them handle it themselves. As the raging fire ignited, it is already noon. I originally intended to leave it at that. But the filial sons kept insisting on keeping us. To understand the man who leaves without a trace. Taboo of leaving matters behind. It seems the problem is not as simple as we imagined. Mr. Chen asked them directly, "Is something wrong?" The filial sons gathered 2,000 yuan for us. This can be considered our previous payment. Mr. Chen was not polite. Next, the filial sons tell us they also heard Yinner crying last night. It's very tragic. Everyone thought it was the village cat in heat. so I didn't pay attention. Now that I think about it, that voice is just like the one we just drove away. When the suitable one's internal evil energy manifests, the piercing cries were identical. And this morning something strange also happened. Many families in the village have chickens, killed by a weasel. Mr. Chen agreed to Xiao Chang and went together to their village. Along the way, I once asked Mr. Chen, "Why stay to help them? Can't we go to Phoenix Valley first?" Actually, I don't want to get involved any further. Even if I have to manage it, we also need to find the Valley King first. Let's talk after solving Mr. Chen's problem. Mr. Chen, and yes, if I die, I hope you can cremation me. Mr. Chen's words. It feels more like discussing the arrangements for the aftermath. And we soon arrived at their village. We haven't entered the village yet. We can feel it. The ominous aura in the village. This made me realize. Things seem very tricky. Entered the village. The filial sons first treated us to fine wine and meat. After finishing the meal, me and Mr. Chen went to see those dead chickens. They all had their throats bitten through, and the corpse has already started to stink. Mr. Chen asked everyone to collect the chickens that were bitten to death, collected and cremated. A young woman walked out from the crowd. "Old man, can't this chicken be eaten?" "Cannot," Mr. Chen answered decisively. But my gaze, yet it fell upon the face of that young woman. I watched as she shyly lowered her head. She is very beautiful, slightly plump and full-figured. The skin is very fair, exuding a mature aura. It makes one's blood surge uncontrollably. But I was not attracted by her beauty. There seemed to be an imperceptible sinister aura within her. After the young woman left, I said to Mr. Chen, "This person has issues." Mr. Chen said, "She ate the chicken that was killed by the eagle. Of course there are problems." Mr. Chen took the principal to bring us to the young woman's house. The principal told us along the way. The young woman's surname is Xiang. She is a widow. There is a daughter in the family, with an elderly mother. Arrived at the young woman's doorstep. A gust of cold air rushed over. Let's shiver a bit. Even the principal couldn't help but shiver. Strange. Why does this widow's house feel so cold, like it's air-conditioned? This is a killing aura. My words made the principal break out in a cold sweat. He was so frightened that he immediately stopped. The footsteps approaching the room. Old mister, how did you come here? Who ate the chicken?" Mr. Chen walked in and immediately asked. The principal scolded the young woman to quickly tell the truth, and spoke of the severity of the issue. The young woman was so scared that she immediately started crying. Explained the situation. His family only has one hen that lays eggs. Because I am hatching chicks. So pay special attention. Last night when I found the old hen dead, it's still hot. I think it must have been bitten to death by a weasel. So they didn't pay much attention. A family came and ate right there. He told us, because I didn't eat much. So there wasn't a problem. But his mother and daughter were different. After eating that chicken, I just kept talking. Everyone is sleeping in the room now. Mr. Chen hurriedly asked him to take us inside. Look at the situation of his child and mother. At a glance, it scared us quite a bit. At this moment, the child and the elderly person has already fallen into a coma, feeling cold all over, and a chilling aura radiated from his entire body. The young woman understood the seriousness of the situation, immediately knelt down before us, crying, "We must save the elderly and the children." Mr. Chen only said he would do his best. Let him go out first. Mr. Chen first opened the window. As the sunlight streams in, the old man and the child Immediately, the figure writhed in pain. During this time, the malevolent energy around him was quickly dissipating. Before long, they stopped the painful shadow. The whole person seemed as if they were asleep. The malice on him also vanished first. Mr. Chen closed the window again. Not long after, the malevolent energy surged within them once again. The whole body became icy cold. Mr. Chen used talisman paper to expel the negative energy from the body, but the talisman paper was on them. The malevolent energy lurked back within, become normal again. I asked in shock, "What is going on?" "This is the fusion of malevolence and soul. It seems he wants to cultivate a living ghost." I asked again, "What is a living person curse?" "It is to let the souls of the living, merging with the malevolent energy of the yin sha. During the day, malice can seep into the soul. The one who kills is no different from the living, and once it arrives at night, evil energy leaves the body, will be controlled by the evil spirit, become its puppet. Has yin sha already become this powerful?" I took a sharp breath. Mr. Chen further analyzed. "If I'm not mistaken, that widow was previously afflicted by a living curse, the hunger and stench of being bitten to death by a malevolent spirit. How could an ordinary person possibly cook to eat? Moreover, it was late at night, cooking instead of sleeping." Mr. Chen gave them something. Each posted a talisman. When I walked out of the room, the widow ran over, asked with concern, "How are we doing?" They quickly woke up, but the problem has not been completely resolved. Mr. Chen did not tell the truth. Next, he and I wandered around the village. The village has a strong aura of malevolence. It must be caused by some reason. On the way, I asked Mr. Chen, "They have evil energy within them. Can it be forcibly expelled?" Mr. Chen shook his head. "The malevolent energy and the soul have merged, unless their souls are shattered. Otherwise, it's hard to get rid of. The soul is scattered. Didn't they just die? There really is no other way. I feel a bit unwilling. Perhaps Waikun can." When Mr. Chen said this, also smiling wryly, "Waikun and Na Lai Gang were originally a group. How could he possibly help us? We are searching in the village. Until we meet again." 7 male villagers were discovered one after another, after latent malevolent energy is within the body. Mr. Chen and I both changed our expressions. No wonder there is a sinister aura permeating the village. Add the Zhang widow's family of 3. The entire village has at least 10 people. Has become a living disaster. Mr. Chen, what should we do next? The situation before us is beyond control. Actually, I want to leave here more. First, find the ancient king. I understand. I understand. Mr. Chen gazed towards the north. Seems to understand something. At this moment, he fell into deep despair. Suddenly, he said to me with a serious expression, "Anyazit, you hurry and leave. Leave here quickly. Go find the ancient king." Mr. Chen kept pushing me away. Not possible. I firmly refused, and shared their thoughts. If we have to go, we must go together. Since the situation here is already out of control, let's just not care about it. Only by finding the ancient king, resolved the issue of your incomplete soul, we are more confident. Dealing with Yin Sha and Lai Gang. Mr. Chen sighed helplessly. I can't go on any longer. That's when I realized. Mr. Chen is already very old. He is only in his 50s or 60s. But at this moment, it seems, but much more alluring than Wai Kun. And the dark energy on his forehead, it's even more intense than before. Even inside Mr. Chen, there were faint traces of ominous energy lingering. Mr. Chen, you, looking at Mr. Chen in front of me. I couldn't help but take a step back. That's right. I too have fallen under his living dead curse. I dare not think any further. Mr. Chen followed me the whole way. When did he fall under that living curse? Mr. Chen, what on earth is going on? Mr. Chen looked towards the north. Perhaps for him, no matter how central the lackey is, it's better to have actual control, just like Wei Kun at the last moment of his life chose to betray him as well. And I, no matter how I opposed him in life, as long as I die, the soul will surely be under his control, become his puppet, including your grandfather in dispelling evil. Actually, it was also part of his plan. It turns out this malice, more than 40 years ago, it has already been planted inside me. This is also why I have reminded you multiple times. After I die, it's best to be cremated, because I don't want to be that person's puppet. Perhaps the only one who can break free from his control. It must be Luo Quezi. It's that person from the north again. At the same time, I also understand. Luo Quezi at the beginning. Why leave the copper oil? Let me cremate him. I asked. Has he already gone south? He won't come down, because there is something in the north. The thing that keeps him from leaving. What is it? Mr. Chen didn't continue speaking. Perhaps he doesn't dare to speak. Perhaps it can be said that he doesn't know either. The true intention of that person from the north. At this moment, we gradually noticed. The afternoon sky suddenly changed. The sky became overcast. A strong wind swept through the entire village, like a torrential rain is about to fall. It's too late. Mr. Chen looked despairingly at the sky and said, "At this moment, Widow Zhang happened to pass by us. At this moment, she is wearing a fitted long dress, highlighting the mature and full figure. She is clearly well dressed. When I looked at her, she just happened to look at me. I suddenly felt an uncontrollable racing of my heart. It's getting dark soon, and the heavy rain is coming. What is she going to do at this time?" I originally wanted to ask her, but Mr. Chen stopped me. He pointed to a spot not far behind Widow Zhang. I looked behind Widow Zhang. 7 people were following closely behind her. These 7 people are none other than. It was precisely when we discovered earlier the 7 men cursed by the living dead. When the 7 of them passed by us, all cast resentful glances. I asked with concern, "Will he be in danger?" Mr. Chen said, "Things might not be that simple. Let's follow them for a while." But at that moment a voice came from behind. "Old gentleman, little master, the weather has changed. Let's go back and avoid the rain. Dinner is almost ready. The principal has arrived." Mr. Chen pointed deliberately at the 7. The man following Widow Zhang in the distance said, "Why are they following him?" The principal had a face as stern as a ruler. "Old sir, please don't take offense. Little do they know that there are many troubles at a widow's door. Look at the way he is dressed. You can tell what kind of person he is. These people are a few bachelors whose souls he has lured away. You go back first. We will be there soon." Mr. Chen sent the principal back, but the principal insisted that we eat first before talking. After all, it's going to rain soon. Mr. Chen is getting old. He is very worried. Mr. Chen had no choice but to follow the principal back. He deliberately gave me a few sheets of talisman paper. "Let me go stick it at the entrance of the village. Just come back for dinner." I had the chance to stay. I certainly know. Mr. Chen asked me to follow and see those people. Why follow Widow Zhang? I followed him until we reached the edge of the village. They have surrounded Widow Zhang in broad daylight. Do they still dare to do anything shameful? I was about to step forward to stop it. Suddenly realized something was wrong. You should know. They are all under the spell of the living dead, and their actions are suspicious. Just as I was about to hide in the bushes and observe the situation, he appeared very panicked and charged towards me. Several people immediately stopped him and watched me warily. Let him go, since they have already discovered us. Hiding has lost its meaning. I have a magnetic sword in hand. If these people don't fall under the spell, I am not a match, because the magnetic sword does not harm ordinary people. He restrains the malevolent and abnormal souls of the practitioners from the mysterious sect. But dealing with the living dead is different. 7 people are walking towards me. The figure appeared somewhat stiff. This is clearly the behavior of someone controlled by malevolent energy. I immediately judged that someone is manipulating them from the shadows. Heaven and earth are the profound principles. Root of all Kai, 4 spirit sky lantern, the Ujiliuding. As my spell slipped from my lips, the magnetic sword in hand transformed and emerged. The moment the crimson iron appeared, 7 people were frightened away, immediately scatter and run away. I looked around. They did not see the person who was secretly controlling them. But I know. This person is most likely Xiangxi, because if the eagle killer is nearby, that intense resentment, I can feel it. Widow Zhang looked at me with eyes full of admiration. She got closer to me, suddenly reached for the magnetic sword in my hand. Little master, your magical artifact is quite impressive. Let sister take a look. Don't be afraid. I quickly sheathed my magnetic sword, but it's already too late. Widow Zhang's hand. I have already encountered the crimson red iron in my hand. She let out a cry of pain. Fortunately, the magnetic sword transformed back to its original form just in time. But despite that, the burning of the magnetic sword also caused her to fall into a coma. Sister Zhang, are you okay? I quickly checked. It's okay. I quickly retracted the magnetic sword. Let the evil energy within her body be released. Can infiltrate the soul. Otherwise, the malevolent energy will be eroded away by the magnetic sword. She is afraid that she will lose her spirit at any moment. Widow Zhang was awakened by me. So, little mister, your magical tool is impressive. I have a terrible headache right now. Can you help me get back? Thinking that this matter started because of me, I helped her up. That soft hand rests on my shoulder. It made my heart race. Little master, are you good at carrying your sister? She suddenly climbed onto my back. I originally wanted to refuse, but suddenly the whole person lost control. I listened to her words. Carrying her, he headed towards her home. At this moment, there is an inexplicable sense of anticipation in my heart. But what I didn't know was, as I entered the village, a shadow appeared at the village entrance. On the back of that figure, climbing the eagle demon, arrived at Widow Zhang's house. I placed her on the bed. Just as I was about to leave, she grabbed my arm. Little master, don't go. I am so scared being alone. Sister Zhang, this might be inconvenient. I strive to stay awake, but she suddenly pulled me onto the bed, suddenly hugged me. The scent of the direction wafted towards me. My heart raced suddenly. This is my first time having such close contact with a woman. I didn't expect it to be so soft. Little master, don't go. I know I have already been cursed. I'd only feel safe when I'm with you. Don't abandon me. Sure. She carried a plea. Her eyes looked pitiful. I instantly felt my heart soften. Little master, your heart is racing so fast. It seems you still have feelings for your sister. You won't learn from your sister. Her words made me lose my final awareness. My mind went blank. The door was kicked open. I suddenly became alert. I struggled free. A cold sweat broke out. Mr. Chen has arrived. I almost made a huge mistake. Mr. Chen grabbed Widow Zhang. Then he on her forehead. Widow Zhang let out a terrible scream. "Young master, save me." As the screams echoed, she cast a pleading look at me. I couldn't bear it in my heart. Tilted her head away. So Widow Zhang fell into a coma. After Widow Zhang fell into a coma, Mr. Chen turned over on her bed. I don't know what she's looking for. But soon she just came out from under the straw mat. Two paper figures entwined together were uncovered. Mr. Chen picked up the paper figurine, suddenly furrowed his brow. I see clearly now. There were two paper figures, one male and one female. In doubt. This paper person. I haven't finished speaking. Mr. Chen handed me the paper figure. "You are cursed." Taking the paper figure, I saw the words on the paper figure clearly. "Several years have passed since the month spirit and the day spirit, born at the hour of the tiger Xiangxi. This is the birth chart of Widow Zhang." And the other one has written on it, "On a day in the month of Ziu, during the year of Jiaxi, a person named Lai Ping'an was born. This was done by Lai Gan." A surge of anger welled up in my heart. This Lai Gan. The ghost truly lingers on. I was about to tear apart the two paper figures entangled together. Mr. Chen stopped me. As soon as that woman appeared, I knew something was off. "I know. You only have this little theorem. So I ran straight here to find you. It's good that you arrived in time." I felt my face flush from what Mr. Chen said. Mr. Chen said again, "Ghost Path sect member, if the purity is broken, cannot cast the spell. Lai Gang has some reservations about you, so this is the only option left. Perhaps we can turn the tables on them." Mr. Chen shared his plan with me. Left hurriedly. The sky quickly darkened. The thunder rumbles. Heavy rain is pouring down. I lay on Widow Zhang's bed, waiting for Lai Gang's arrival. Time passes minute by minute, until the window creaked open. Someone climbed in through the window. I pulled back the blanket, looking through the gap. This sight shocked me. The person who came was actually the principal. How did he come? "Zhang Lily, Zhang Lily!" He shouted at the bed and reached out to grab the blanket. I jumped out of bed. When you see my indifferent gaze, he was shocked. "Little master, how did you get here? The old gentleman is looking for you everywhere. Stop pretending. I took out that person. I didn't expect to be discovered by you." The principal revealed a cold, sinister gaze. Walking towards me. Heaven and earth, the mysterious religion. Root of 10,000 Kai. 4-spirit sky lantern. Liu Jia Liu Ding. I recited the incantation, looking at the words appearing in my hand. He looked at me with a playful expression. "Do you think this is useful for me?" He grabbed the document tightly, started to fight with me. He turned out to be just an ordinary person. Words do not harm ordinary people. We still miscalculated. Lai Gang is this person, acting very cautiously. He has astonishing strength. Right in the document I hold in my hand, just as it was about to be taken away by him, the word suddenly turned into a cicada chrysalis shell. The filial son was first taken aback, suddenly understood what was happening. At the same time, I also found, as soon as the item leaves my hand, it will return to its original form. Kid, give me the Word document. Otherwise, you and that old man, they will all be unable to leave the village. You can forget about it. Looking for a fight. He pinned me to the ground. A fist came swinging towards me. I can only use my arms to block. Bang! Then Xiao Chang suddenly fell down. It's Widow Zhang who has risen. She was holding a wooden stick as thick as an arm. Sister Zhang. She looked utterly panicked, but soon calmed down. Pull me up. Ran straight towards the door. Young master, let's hurry up. We just ran to the door. She suddenly stopped in her tracks. With a strange smile. Little master, are you happy sleeping with your sister? I saw within her. A surge of malevolent energy erupted. I quickly stepped back, quickly recite the incantation. Just as she was about to pounce on me, the porcelain sword transformed and emerged. Scorching red light, she retreated to the corner. At this moment, she revealed a resentful gaze like that of a vengeful eagle. My porcelain sword did not strike at her, because she would be terrified. Without being controlled by negative energy, she saved me too. I owe her a favor. I opened the door. Dozens of villagers, glaring at me with resentment in the heavy rain. They all fell victim to the living curse. In the distance, Lai Gang and that eagle killer also appeared. Mr. Chen lay on the ground, unconscious. Lai Peinan, put down the porcelain sword. I can let you go. Far away, Lai Gang stared at me coldly and said, I give you. Do you dare to take it? I spread my hands. The porcelain sword is in my hand. Crimson light. A group of villagers cursed by the living dead, trembling with fear, and stepped back. Lai Gang also revealed a huge expression. Compared to the living dead, he became even more wary of the porcelain sword. Lai Gang is, after all, a dead man. Lai Gang spoke in an authoritative tone. Put down the porcelain sword. You may leave now. Let it go. I scoffed. Lai Gang does not confront us directly, but it requires a lot of effort. Lead us into this village. I am just afraid of the porcelain sword in my hand. I. Suddenly the eagle made a cry. The call made a group of villagers suddenly look up. Suddenly, a surge of malevolent energy filled the air. The fear in your gaze towards me turned into resentment. They no longer fear the porcelain sword in my hand. The gaze turned crimson, under the control of the eagle's fierce aura, transformed into a human cannonball charging towards me, looking at the already frantic villagers. I panicked. Not to mention, with my current ability to wield the porcelain sword. Can their souls be scattered? But they are still alive. Against evil spirits, I can be merciless, but I dare not indiscriminately kill the innocent. I decisively retreated into Widow Zhang's room and closed the door. Spray, spray, spray. The villagers have started to crazily bang on the door. Little master. The voice of Zhang Guofu came from behind. I had to grip the porcelain sword tightly once again. You don't come over. The porcelain sword in my hand points at her, threatened her not to come close. Little master, you can rest assured. I won't harm you, Widow Zhang explained to me with a serious expression. I looked at her. The gaze was not fierce. But this doesn't allow me to let my guard down. The evil spirit is right outside. Widow Zhang, who has fallen victim to a living curse. How can one not be under her control? The knocking on the door outside grew increasingly intense. The wooden door could be smashed open at any moment. I quickly pushed a table over, held the door strong, but a wave of malevolence followed closely behind. Let me turn back suddenly and waved the porcelain sword. A piercing scream echoed through the air. That person is not Widow Zhang. She is the mother of Xiangxi. She tightly grasped the porcelain sword I swung at her, accompanied by bursts of dark energy all over. A buzzing sound also came through, until she completely collapsed to the ground, also unwilling to let go of my porcelain sword. As the sinister energy was almost completely eroded by the porcelain sword, she is already in a state of despair. Widow Zhang suddenly knelt down on the ground and cried, and in the distance another figure is approaching me. It is the daughter of Widow Zhang. I raised the porcelain sword in my hand. I intended to intimidate that girl, but just at the moment I raised my porcelain sword, suddenly transformed back to its original form, chanting the spell several times, adding that old lady from just now. As I struggle with the porcelain sword, hold on to me tightly, consumed a large amount of magic from the porcelain sword. My mental energy has been drained. Young sir, please don't hurt her. Widow Zhang pleaded with me. Tell her not to come over. I turned back and said to Widow Zhang, she can still stay awake. Shuo Ming is not completely under the control of Xiangxi. Widow Zhang rushed over and embraced the girl. The girl keeps struggling, but soon she calmed down. I thought it was a mother's love that awakened the girl's soul. But when Widow Zhang turned around, I saw a talisman paper stuck to her back. That was the talisman I previously gave to Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen had already made preparations. Since Mr. Chen gave the talisman to Widow Zhang, then he must have already been controlled by the eagle killer. At this moment, the villagers had already smashed a crack in the door. That door is about to be broken open. Widow Zhang suddenly said, "Little sir, you disguised yourself and captured my soul. Then I will take you out. You took the opportunity to escape the village. There is no other way now. In this situation where one cannot change the conversation, the porcelain sword. I am no different from an ordinary person. It's simply impossible to compete with Lai Gang and the others." Widow Zhang pulled me out the door. The eagle's bane let out a cry. The villagers also stopped attacking. Widow Zhang pulled me step by step towards Lai Gang. Compared to Lai Gang's playful expression, the eagle spirit on his shoulder was glaring at me with resentment. This made me realize the seriousness of the problem. Caught off guard, Xiangxi suddenly swooped down, charging towards my face. I was really careless. I'd ignored the hatred Eagle Shah had for me. As long as there's a chance, he would kill me at any cost. At this moment, I can only watch as the eagle swoops in. Ding-ling-bling, ding-ling-bling. Critical moment. A sound of bells rang out. The sound of the bell made Xiangxi suddenly fall from the sky. Xiangxi fell to the ground, clutching its head and rolling continuously, and let out a mournful cry. I looked back. In the distant darkness, a figure from the watchtower is walking toward us. It is Wai Kun. I can't believe he actually came to save us. Xiangxi rolled on the ground, holding its head, and let out a mournful cry. The sound of the bell made his head throb. Rolling along, a large patch of skin was also torn off him, but his cries frightened the villagers who were already living in fear. Once again cast a resentful glance, and walked towards Wai Kun. Wai Kun, you have betrayed the master Xiangxi. You won't have a good ending. Lai Gang pointed at Wai Kun and said, I thought Lai Gang would fight to the death with Wai Kun. I didn't expect that after he left behind a harsh remark, turned and fled toward the outside of the village. Discussion on control masters. I dare to test talent at the Mist Gate. Wai Kun did not pay any attention to the fleeing Lai Gang. He looked at the approaching villager with disdain. The rhythm changed along with the ringing sound. The resentment in the villager's eyes vanished, stopped in place, became expressionless. Xiangxi is still struggling on the ground. It seemed that Waikun could easily handle that eagle demon, but the problem is not as simple as it seems on the surface. Because Waikun's forehead, beads of cold sweat began to emerge. Her complexion was gradually turning pale. "Hurry up and take him away," Waikun shouted at me. Waikun clearly can't hold on much longer. Yet the eagle demon is writhing in pain on the ground. However, Waikun could not severely injure or kill him. As long as Waikun cannot continue to wield the soul control spirit, the scene will immediately take a turn. At that time, the eagle demon will surely seek revenge. Waikun's fate is easy to predict. I carried Mr. Chen on my back, running towards the outskirts of the village. "Little master, wait for me." The voice of Widow Zhang came from behind. At this moment, I cannot care about so much anymore. Waikun's half-body is already in the ground. He couldn't hold off that eagle spirit for long. I must leave here quickly. But Widow Zhang quickly caught up to me. After all, I am still carrying someone on my back. The footsteps were not quick. I questioned. "I can barely take care of myself. Why are you following me?" "Little master, that evil spirit has already taken over our village. I have to go." Widow Zhang had a pleading look on her face. Seemed pitiful. She was soap all over. The thin clothing clung to the skin. "Draw out that mature charm." I really can't bear to refuse her. Just like that, after running a few kilometers in one go, I can't walk any more. Found a cave and lit a campfire. In June and July, the wind is very strong. At high temperature, the clothes dried quickly, but Mr. Chen showed no signs of waking up. Widow Zhang has fallen asleep, sitting by the campfire until dawn broke. Finally, I can no longer withstand the exhaustion. In a daze, I saw Widow Zhang swallow her clothes and burrowed into my embrace. "Little master, little mister," when Widow Zhang woke me up. It is already noon. On a hot day, I was already dressed lightly. The body's reactions are fully visible. This makes me extremely embarrassed. Widow Zhang just smiled. She has weathered many storms. This scene seems very normal. Mr. Chen is still in a coma. "Mr. Chen, wake up." I nudged Mr. Chen. He is already cold all over. I quickly tested his breath. He is now more calm than agitated. Mr. Chen is going to die. I must quickly take him to see the ancient king. Simple vehicle.